Portrayed by Pablo Schreiber in the Paramount Plus Halo series, Master Chief is probably one of the most iconic characters in the history of pop culture. He has inspired a bunch of comics, video games, and movies that keep expanding the pre-existing universe, but not many people know the story behind the man and everything that he had been through as part of the Spartan program that gave him his cybernetic enhancements.
Our humanity's next step. Our destiny as a species. Do not underestimate them. But most of all, do not underestimate him.
All these events shaped him into becoming the Master Chief, a being of higher power whose body can be best described as a scientific marvel. Ranging from his Mjolnir armor to his superhuman abilities, today we shall take a deep dive into his anatomy and tell you all about the inner functions of his physiology. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin.
Leader, you are hereby promoted to Petty Officer 3rd Class.
Who is Master Chief, and how was Master Chief created and fundamentally enhanced? While this character has reached new heights of popularity under the name Master Chief, he was actually known as John by birth, and he was only 6 years old when he first interacted with the founder of the Spartan program, Dr. Catherine Halsey. As it turns out, John resided on the outer colony world known as Eridanus II, who despised Earth's rule and stirred up a pro-independence regime that gave way to the Watts Uprising of 2513. In order to deal with the resistance, Earth sent a UNSC force to deal with the terrorist attacks, and John was one of the kids in the generation that grew up in a UNSC-occupied world where terrorist attacks were a part of their everyday life. While Dr. Halsey approached the kids under the pretense of a vaccination program, she was actually on a mission to attain their genetic samples to examine whether their genetic markers were good enough to shape them into decent Spartans. When Catherine met a young John, she was taken aback by his genetics, as well as the fact that he seemed to have great luck. Catherine believed that her Spartan program could only thrive with a bit of luck along with good genetics, and John became one of the many Spartans to join her team. Essentially, the Spartan program was supposed to defend the UNSC from its biggest threat, the insurrectionists, and it mostly comprised orphans. John did not seem to match the typical profile of a Spartan, and Catherine went to great heights to create an illegal Flash clone to replace him in the real world while John underwent his training. This artificial clone was programmed to grow weak and die within a year, leaving John's family to believe that they had lost their son, while John found a new home with the Spartans. He was labeled as John 117, and he underwent a rigorous training program where he thrived among his peers and emerged at the top in most of his training tests. Finally, John reached his teen years, and it was about time for him to undergo illegal genetic engineering and cybernetic experimentation to turn him into a super soldier, something that Catherine forced upon every young recruit. At the age of 14, John was subjected to intense procedures that altered his exoskeleton and exposed him to cybernetic and genetic augmentations that boosted his strength and reflexes. He first received a catalytic thyroid implant, which boosted his skeleton and muscle growth by secreting a growth hormone. This increased the proteins within his body, which was supposed to boost his muscle density and even help him grow taller and bulkier. While this would enable the Spartans to grow to tall heights and strengthen their musculature, it often resulted in a lowered sex drive. He also underwent a procedure known as carbide ceramic ossification, wherein a hardened ceramic material was grafted onto Master Chief's bones. This was quite a risky procedure, and the Spartan 2 program made use of an alloy known as boron carbide to strengthen the soldier's bones. These biological augmentations involved making incisions over his arms, legs, chest, and shoulders, and he showed signs of 3 subdural hematomas, or bleeding within the brain, as a result of the experimentations. He was given a bunch of injections that would release proteins that target the muscular's intracellular molecules to promote growth and endurance by overriding the GDF8 protein. When it comes to genetic procedures, his genome was a hybrid created out of his original sequences as well as added sequences, and a genetic command known as GIAS was implanted in his body so that he could be controlled on a subconscious level. Besides this, Master Chief's occipital capillaries were tweaked to boost blood vessel flow beneath the rods and cones of his retina. This was achieved by performing a complex surgical procedure on the capillaries of his left cerebral hemisphere. In this process, his capillaries were reversed to ensure a boosted blood supply to the retina, which in turn would greatly enhance his visual perception. This procedure required a great deal of precision, as the surgeons had to make tiny incisions in the skull and then re-engineer the programming of his capillaries while also making sure that they did not accidentally blind the soldier in the process. During these procedures, the Spartans were connected to the neural base with the help of a chip implant that would not only link these soldiers' minds to the main interface, but also enable the higher-ups to control their actions and influence their thoughts to a great extent. In order to keep up with all these augmentations, Master Chief's cardiovascular system was in dire need of an upgrade, and an electroactive polymer weave was implanted within his heart muscles to regulate his heartbeat and ease the strain on the heart. His bodily cells were also altered with the help of adenoviral telomerase replacement therapy, which would ensure that his cells divided perfectly every time and attained cellular immortality. This did not mean that the Spartans themselves were immortal, but it indicated that their cells were in perfect working condition due to some basic genetic engineering and that they degenerated at a slower pace than humans. While immortal beings would have to undergo much more complex genetic engineering procedures, these basic processes ensured that Master Chief and other Spartan II soldiers' bodies would age at a slower rate. It was suggested that a Spartan could live up to 200 years with ease, that is, if they were not killed off in a brutal face-off. Their bodies were also genetically engineered to decrease their vulnerability to infections and diseases, which further boosted their lifespan. While a bunch of soldiers could not survive these intense procedures, John was among the 30 Spartans who made it out unscathed. He rose to the ranks of the military chief and even played a major role in the Human Covenant War, which is how he earned a name as Master Chief. After successfully getting a bunch of physiological enhancements, John had another stage left in his training program, which involved the use of the powerful Mjolnir exo armor. Catherine reserved this technology only for a few Spartans who had cleared all initial tests, and we shall now have a look at the role this armor played in Master Chief's story arc.
Has already begun.
What is the role and impact of Master Chief's Mjolnir armor? After having passed the initial stages of his training, Master Chief was fitted with a form-fitting, lightweight polymer suit that could deflect small caliber rounds and other minor attacks, among other things. This suit of armor was fitted with a heating unit as well as a refrigeration system, and it came with an integrated helmet that had a wide range of equipment fitted onto it. For instance, the helmet had encryption and communications gear, motion sensors, a heads-up display, as well as thermal detectors and headlamps. This helmet could even vacuum seal itself around John's head in dire circumstances and supply him with enough oxygen to last 15 minutes in life-threatening situations. This helmet was made of titanium and was directly linked to John's brain with the help of a HUD or heads-up display. It also had a wide range of features such as the ability to identify equipment, filter toxins in the environment, and create a neural link that connects John's brain to his neural implants. The helmet further had an AI chip, solar-powered lighting, and some imaging and video gear among other things. While John's armor served several purposes, it was a bit heavy and snugly fitted, which made it uncomfortable for him to move around to the best of his abilities. It also required intense repair at times, and in John's very first mission, one of the bullets from an opponent's machine gun rifle managed to penetrate through his Mjolnir armor. John typically donned olive green armor with a gold visor, a design that has become one of his most identifiable features. Over the course of his history arc, John's armor went through a few upgrades, and Cortana offered to use nano machines to repair his armor and even rewrite its firmware so that it could be more compatible with Covenant and Forerunner armor plugins. This upgraded Mjolnir could be identified by the inscriptions on its left breastplate, which displayed the Braille characters for the number 117. His suit was also fitted with powerful magnetic weapon holder strips that made it easy to carry a bunch of weapons without having to worry about them falling off mid-combat. After John went on the mission to Installation 3, his existing Mark VI armor was upgraded by Oni's Watershed division. This brand new armor had the same features as the Gen 1 Mark VI, but it was redesigned to some extent, and it even had an improved helmet after his previous one was destroyed by the Dissect. This suit was later upgraded to be compatible with Gen 3, and his suit had some upgraded capabilities such as holographic emitters in his left palm. These emitters made it easy for John to display his weapon's avatar and effortlessly communicate with the AI, which in turn allowed him to transfer information into computer systems without going through a lot of trouble. The outer shell of the suit was made of a thick titanium alloy, and this plating ensured that his chest, arms, legs, and vital organs were safe from any outer attacks. The outer shell of John's armor was also laced with a refractive coating that helped deflect the energy from Covenant energy weapons, but an overload of attacks could considerably weaken this armor, especially if the opponent used plasma weapons. While the outer coating was made of titanium, there was a thick, black armored bodysuit that separated this external layer from the internal padding. This bodysuit ensured flexibility and comfort, and it further served as an additional layer of protection from ballistic attacks or plasma weapons. There was a layer of hydrostatic gel underneath this bodysuit, and this gel played a role in maintaining the temperature of the suit. While all these layers were more than sufficient, the Mjolnir suit also consisted of an adaptable internal shell that was split between two layers. The upper layer contained a reactive metal that enhanced the wearer's strength, reaction time, and overall physical performance, while the second layer operated at a molecular level to support the suit's AI system, known as Cortana. The Mjolnir suit was also fitted with a pressure seal that ensured that the suit's system stayed safe in water or even space, and it also had an energy shield that could protect the wearer from external weapons, such as 50mm cannons or fuel rods. In case of emergencies, the suit was equipped with an automatic biofoam injection that could be used in dire situations to treat infections and seal wounds temporarily. However, this process was quite painful, and John only ever resorted to using this injection in case of fatal injuries. The suit further had reactive circuits that were linked directly to the interface, and these circuits amplified John's reaction time and enhanced his efficiency in a face-off. The armor further had enhanced motion that made it easy to engage in hand-to-hand combat, and all these features were powered by the Mjolnir armor's fusion reactor energy system.
How does it feel?
What is the anatomical basis of Master Chief's superhuman abilities? Master Chief underwent a bunch of physical augmentations in his teen years, which helped him gain enhanced strength, speed, and durability, among other abilities. To begin with, let's quickly recap the procedures that Master Chief underwent in his initial training years. He underwent a carbide ceramic ossification procedure wherein advanced material was grafted onto his skeletal structure in order to strengthen his bones. He took a bunch of muscular enhancement injections wherein protein complexes were injected into his bloodstream to boost his tissue density and decrease lactase buildup. Master Chief was also given a catalytic thyroid implant in the form of a platinum pellet that acted as a growth hormone catalyst. His neural dendrites were altered to boost his reflexes, and Master Chief did notice a 300% increase in his reflexes, intelligence, and creative abilities after superconducting fibrification of his neural dendrites. All his augmentations helped him develop immense durability, and he could withstand attacks that could have injured most humans or Spartans. His body developed at a much more advanced pace than humans, and he was said to have the body of an 18-year-old athlete even when he had barely turned 14. He boasted of superhuman strength, and he was capable of lifting at least 3 times his body weight at the young age of 14. With time, his strength only increased manifold, and he was capable of destroying Covenant tanks and lifting warthogs measuring over 3.5 tons, among other things. He could further run at a speed of about 105 kilometers per hour, and he surpassed the most accomplished Olympic athletes in this regard. Master Chief's augmentations, paired with his intense Spartan training, helped him gain superhuman agility and reflexes, and he could wiggle his way out of pretty much any situation. He was said to have a reaction time of 20 milliseconds, and his Mjolnir armor proved to be pretty useful in enhancing his powers even more. How does Master Chief's physiology compare to normal human physiology? John was born as a human being, and he had a few human features such as pale blue eyes and red-brown hair. Before he underwent Spartan training and experimentations, a 6-year-old John had freckled cheeks and a wide gap between his front teeth. He seemed to tower over other kids even before he joined the Spartan 2 program, and his physiology soon underwent tremendous changes as soon as he was subjected to Dr. Halsey's experimentations. While he possessed the same facial features as humans, his skin was much smoother and youthful than other humans his age. John seemed to have retained his youth as a result of the program's de-accelerated aging procedures. He certainly did not look his age in his 30s or 40s, but he had a bunch of battle scars to show for all the years that he had dedicated to the Spartan cause. He had a bunch of scars on his limbs, back, and chest, and his eye color had considerably brightened and accentuated over the years. Some of his notable scars included one that extended all the way from his cheek to his left eye, and his skin had paled over the years. One could also notice the wrinkles and crow's feet on his face, and it was evident that years of fighting had worn him down and given him the appearance of an older man over the years. While John was in no way human after undergoing countless augmentation procedures, he did retain some of his humanity, and one could notice his freckles and thoughtful eyes upon a closer look. Of course, there were some features that differentiated him from humans, such as a hybrid genome and a neural interface that was evident at the base of his jaw. What are the neurological augmentations in Master Chief and their biological consequences? In order to enhance Master Chief's reflexes and overall functioning, his neural dendrites were altered so that they would perform shielded electronic transduction instead of bioelectrical nerve transduction. This would cause a 300% jump in his reflex time, which subsequently boosted his intelligence, memory, and creativity. However, such extreme physical alterations can often have a detrimental effect on the individual's body and result in numbness or tingling of the nervous tissue. This procedure was known as the superconducting fibrification of neural dendrites, and it changed the way their nerve tissues worked on a cellular basis. By undergoing this procedure, Master Chief, as well as the other Spartans, could function at a pace that was beyond the scope of human imagination. Typically, our brain uses about 1 billion neurons to process any sensory information and then come up with an appropriate response in a matter of about 300 milliseconds. While this is barely any time, humans have the ability to undergo training and reduce their reaction time to about 120 to 150 milliseconds. If this is the case for an average human, one can only imagine how this works for a Spartan, especially after they undergo neurological augmentations to speed up the workings of the neuron. In a typical neuron, the cell body has several dendrites branching out from it, as well as one thin axon that tapers at the end of the neuron. When our neurons receive a signal, they pass this information along in the form of chemicals known as neurotransmitters that pass through a tiny synaptic space between the dendrites of one neuron and the axon of the other. In this way, several neurons connect together to create a neural pathway along which the information is passed along, and these procedures happen in a matter of milliseconds. However, Master Chief's augmentations enabled his neurons to move at the speed of light, making it difficult for him to strike a balance between his brain functioning and reality. In simple words, Master Chief's brain processed information at a faster pace than reality, and he often perceived the world to be moving at a snail's pace. This gave him enough time to study his opponent's movements, and his augmented nervous system was responsible for collecting information from his visual field, even if the opponent moved at a fast pace. Master Chief had a reaction time of about 20 milliseconds, and his motor neurons were also augmented so that he could move around at an enhanced pace. However, one had to keep in mind that Spartans were also humans at the end of the day, and Master Chief had once torn his Achilles tendon when he tried to run over 100 kilometers per hour. The neurological augmentation procedures were also no joke, and undergoing such an excruciating process required a whole lot of courage on Master Chief's part. It was said that the process felt as if all our nerves were on fire, and this fire moved up one's spinal cord and triggered migraines, slowed one's reaction time, and even affected one's kidneys and sensory modalities, among other things. Can he reproduce? Can Master Chief have children? To begin with, Master Chief does have human origins and reproductive organs, and it is only natural for him to have a regular sex drive. His augmentations also did not impact his reproductive organs, so there is no evidence to suggest that he might not be able to have children. However, Spartan seemed to have quite a low sex drive, and he has not had any children that have carried forward his legacy so far. At the end of the day, Spartan reproduction might also raise questions regarding the offspring's genetic capabilities and whether the parent Spartan's genetic modifications will be passed on to the kids. While Spartans initially had children who inherited their parents' genetic capabilities and super strength, Master Chief and the other subjects of the Spartan 2 program seemingly had no sex drive. They were wired to engage in wars and fight for the UNSC cause, and procreation seemed to be the last thing on their minds. Another thing that comes into play here is the fact that the Spartan 2 program was the only version that was carried out on young kids before they reached puberty, meaning that they were never exposed to the idea of fulfilling intimate relationships. This may have also affected their functioning, as John and other Spartan 2 members expressed no interest in having children, even though they might be fully capable of reproducing. As things progressed, the Spartan 3 program included a ton of members who had voluntarily enrolled on the program after their families were wronged by the Covenant. Most of these members were teenagers or adults, and they seemed to have no qualms about discussing the intimate details of their lives or engaging in relationships, which suggests that John should also ideally be able to have children if he ever got his sex drive back.
Master Chief,
defend this station.
Yes, sir. I need a weapon.
Is he immortal? While John's mortal age seems to be around 46 years old in the year 2557, he has been on numerous space voyages and has spent a considerable amount of time in cryonic stasis. In his 27-year-long battle against the Covenant, John spent about 4 years and 7 months on board the UNSC Forward Unto Dawn, wherein he was put in a cryonic stasis chamber that halted his cellular aging process. This suggests that he may look younger than his mortal age, as it is often suggested that slip space travel can result in some time dilation and affect an individual's aging process. Keeping these things in mind, it is safe to assume that any estimation of John's true age might be flawed, and there is no way of determining his actual age. However, none of his enhancements bestowed him with any de-accelerated aging abilities, and it doesn't seem like he is an immortal being, even though he is certainly capable of outliving most beings around him.
Could we possibly make any more noise?
Marvelous verdict. To wrap things up, Master Chief's genetically enhanced body is much more than a super soldier experiment, and his physiology is nothing short of a marvel. From cybernetic experiments to neurological augmentations and even a fitted Mjolnir armor, Master Chief's character in Halo will certainly go down in history for having one of the most fascinating physiologies in pop culture, and we hope you had a good time exploring his bodily features with us. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.